Hello everyone and welcome back to Kentucky Garden Gal. I am Nancy and I garden in Kentucky, which is a zone 7. This is already the month of June. We are halfway through the year, 23 weeks into this year. Can you believe that? And so these are my 10 tips for June gardening in zone 7. The number one tip I want to give you is to take care of yourself. Make sure when you go out to work in your garden, you are applying sunscreen, you're staying hydrated. Take something out with you to drink like water. Remember, tea and coffee do kind of dehydrate. So if you're still drinking tea and coffee, make sure you drink some water too. Have on my hat to keep the sun out of my eyes. I have on light, loose-fitting clothes, and I'm sure that by the end of the day, my hair will be up and off of my neck because I'll be hot. But let's get out into the garden and see what all we need to be doing in June. I tilled up this little patch for a cutting garden. I'm actually going to put zinnias in here, but by June you can direct sow things like sunflowers, nasturtiums, marigolds, basil, and other warm season flowers and herbs. And I went on vacation, and as you can tell, my weeds did not disappoint. They came back, so I'm gonna have to get in here and re-till this again, rake all this grass out, and then I will sow my zinnias in here. And when you are direct sowing, remember to keep your soil moist. You don't want your seeds drying out or your soil drying out because they still have to germinate and grow. Tip number 3 is to monitor for pest and disease in your garden. And unfortunately, if you are gardening, then pest and disease are just part of gardening. When I came back, I was actually on an 11-day vacation, and when I came back, I noticed that I had rust on my plants. And I did a little research. I knew that it didn't look right, so I did a little research, and it recommended that I buy something called a copper fungicide. I happened to buy this at my local co-op. It was $22, and it says that you can use it for roses, fruits, and vegetables, and plus your plants. So this will be something good for me to have on hand. Now, in this particular case, this was caused by high humidity and low airflow. And as you notice, I do have these up against a fence. I do have some weeds that I need to take care of, so I don't know if that's what caused it, but I do know how to fix it. So what it recommends when you have rust is to take your, I'm going to take off these bottom leaves and put those in a plastic bag, throw them away in your trash. Do not put them in your compost because you can spread this amongst your plants. So my plan is to remove the larger leaves at the bottom and then apply this fungicide to these plants, and hopefully I will get this rust issue under control. And you can see that there are plenty of blooms on these hollyhocks, so it doesn't look like it's going to affect the blooms at all. It just doesn't look very pretty. But like I said, I'll be taking care of those leaves, and the little nippers that I use to cut these leaves off, I will clean those really well with alcohol when I get through doing this. Our next tip is taking softwood cuttings on shrubs. A lilac is a great shrub to propagate, and this is something that I have just started doing. And as I always say, my garden is trial and error. I have to grow it in order to know it. I can read books, I can watch videos, but until I actually get in there and get my hands on it and and just do it myself. That's how I learn. So this is a really good time, and I want to show you the difference between a hardwood and a softwood. So this would be considered a hardwood. You see, it looks just like the bark of a shrub, you know. But if you come up to here, that looks new. That looks brand new. So when I come in to take a cutting of this lilac, I'm gonna cut it right there. Do you see how this is hardwood, this is softwood? Hardwood, softwood. And I'm going to take a good clean sharp knife and I will just scrape this bark off. I will put this in some root hormone, dip it in a root hormone or honey, you can use that also. And then I'll put it in some moist, gritty soil. And by this fall, I should have roots and I can have more lilac bushes. So make sure that you go out and you're checking your shrubs to see what you can propagate. If you are like me, you are finding yourself at the end of a water hose more and more, and especially July and August in Kentucky, we sometimes have to water twice a day here. So when you're watering, remember it's best to water either in the morning or before dark. Now, you can water in the evenings. You don't want to come out on a hot night and repeatedly water after dark because that can cause some issues for you there. But you would have to do it pretty frequently to get yourself into trouble. But mainly you just want to come out and learn the difference between deep watering. It would be better to go out and water your vegetable gardens. Deep watering maybe every 3 days than it would be to come out and just water quickly every day, because when you deep water, you're establishing the roots. You're getting that water down into the roots where it needs to be. Now, if you have planted, if you're like me and you planted a bunch of trees this year, it's really important to keep those watered. And what has worked out good for me is to just take a gallon milk jug, put a pin hole in the bottom, take the top off, set it by your, in my case I have dogwoods and pawpaws, set it by that and fill it up twice a day. And so far, mine are looking great. Remember to watch your container flowers, and if you're doing vegetables, if you have a saucer under your containers, it really will help you out because it'll help that pot to hold more moisture, and plus it won't ruin the surface that it's sitting on. So always, and you can go and buy saucers, or you can go to the thrift stores and find old plates, platters, things like that. Just something to put under that to hold water. As the temperatures heat up, we will notice that things like our basil, they start to bolt, or another word is they start to create seeds. So what you want to do in this case is to come down to where you see that it's bolting and pinch it off. So that is what you're looking for. This is my basil that is starting to bolt. So I will just keep this, when I come out, I will keep this cut off. And in my case, I just give it to the chickens. But I saved this so I could show you all what it looks like. And then I will get all of this cleaned up. And then I will also check my lettuces to make sure that it isn't bolting. So the chickens are enjoying the basil that has bolted, and when I was doing it, I had some that I pulled a little bit too hard because this stuff has really bolted. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this in the house and I am going to stick it in water, and in just a few days I'll have 3 more basil plants to enjoy. So basil is very easy to propagate. Just put it in water. Okay, this has nothing to do with June gardening tips, but I wanted to show you my lion lock bunnies. I got these a couple of days ago. I have 2 bucks and 2 does that I can keep together until July the 20th. I have the date written down, and then we have to separate them. But not only are they absolutely adorable and sweet, but they have the best manure. And bunny manure is considered cold manure, which means that you can directly plant into this manure. So I wanted to add rabbit manure to my garden. Aren't they just the sweetest things? They are so pretty. They're eating their Timothy hay. And I just noticed when I walked in, the girls are laying so good. I brought my eggs in that I had gathered, and I also went ahead and put my basil cuttings in water. And I thought of something else that might be helpful. If you are cutting basil and you want to use it to cook, the best way to store it is you can put it in the refrigerator in water, or you can wet a paper towel, wrap it around the base of the basil, put it in a plastic bag, and put that in the refrigerator. But if you just cut it and simply lay it out on the counter, it's not going to last very long. So you do need to take care of it for it to last. So our next tip, I'm actually going to have to sneak over into my neighbor's garden because she has done a much better job at this than I have, but you will freshen up your mulch. Now look how beautiful her flowers look compared to mine, which I have not gotten the mulch out yet. So what I will need to do is come in and pull these weeds and then put mulch down, and it'll be as pretty as my neighbor's. I want to talk about weeding, and weeding is something that you can do in your garden literally year-round. And like I told you earlier in the video, I was gone for 11 days, and I'm telling you, the weeds put out a memo and they took over. So look at these weeds. Do you see this weed here and these weeds here? Look at all the seeds. This is the part that is so bad because these seeds, when the wind blows, you know, these dry out and then these seeds just spread, and then you just have more and more and more weeds. So one of the things that is important in your garden not only is keeping it weeded, but to identify and know your weeds so that you know what you're battling. But my goodness, I have not, this one didn't get weeded before I went on vacation. It hasn't been touched, and I'm probably looking at several hours in here getting this thing weeded. Just as we start to see all of these beautiful blooms in our gardens in June, that brings up another chore that we need to do, which is deadheading. Now, in this particular case, this is a lily. This is deadheading. And you just take and you break off this part. Some people, you know, will throw it down and mulch it up, just whatever you want to do. I usually collect mine in a container and throw mine in the trash. But by deadheading, you promote new growth. So make sure that you get out, and you may also see it referred to as cutting off spent blooms. But it's all the same, which is just deadheading and getting off the dead blooms so that new ones can come back. tip number 10, which is our final tip, is to fertilize your roses. Now, I have not touched these roses, and I just came out and checked them as I was making this video, and let me tell you all the things that I see wrong. First of all, we noticed that the magnolia tree has really dropped its leaves, so those need to be raked out, or I can take my blower and blow them out and mulch them up as I mow. I need to bring in a few bags of mulch in here, and then I noticed that something is eating on my roses. So this afternoon I will come out and I will cut off these spent blooms. I will put some fertilizer around my roses, and then I will sprinkle some diatomaceous earth on these after I water them. And when you water it, the powder sticks on it, but in probably 3 days these will be looking so much better. And then when you cut your roses back, what you're hoping to get is another flush, and that is when you cut something back and it blooms again, that's considered a flush. So we want to deadhead our roses, cut them back, fertilize them, and in my case, sprinkle them with diatomaceous earth, and then get some mulch around them, and then these should be happy roses. I appreciate you all watching this video and subscribing to my channel. I hope that we have created just a great gardening community. I know that there are so many gardening channels out there. I appreciate you all. I am by no means a perfect gardener. I love gardening, and I show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not trying to make you think that my garden is always perfect, because it's definitely not. But I love gardening and everything that goes with it, including the messes. And as you can see, this is a pretty good mess here, but you know what? I do know how to correct it, and it will get taken care of. So thanks for watching this video, and I will see you this week. It is time for a Walkabout Wednesday, and I see lots of blooms, so I think it's going to be much more colorful this week. You guys have a great week.